People who have met their online friends. What made you instantly regret it? We met in a lesbian group. Had the same local area. Was instant regret as soon as I got back online. Thought the meeting was pretty normal and they were a really cool person I'd want to be friends with. Which is how I felt about them before meeting too. But then came back to see they posted a lot, about 10 paragraph long posts, about how every girl they meet is taken and how depressed and lonely they are. While we were out. Starting around moment I mentioned my girlfriend. Now I pay more attention to when people are on their phones during social outings. Never know what they could be doing. Turns out my internet friend was a registered sex offender. He was a former high school teacher who was having sex with one of his 15-year-old students. I thought the guy seemed a bit odd. But when I saw the headline in the newspaper a lot about his strange reclusive lifestyle started making sense. We are no longer friends. Maybe not regret it. But it gave me years of depression. I met my best friend through Minecraft. Never made friends in this and I just wanted to play with someone. I have no idea why. So I complimented this girl's skin. We started talking. She was American. I'm Polish and my English sucked. We moved to Skype and at first I mostly typed. But later on she started teaching me English somehow by talking with me. She was 1 year older. We knew each other for almost a year and I was staying up all night just to talk to her and her friends that she introduced to me. She was also depressed so we talked with each other and she was the first person that truly listened to me. We had plans of visiting each other. And then our mutual friend told me she committed suicide. 4 years passed by and now at least I can talk about it and not cry. Still miss her very much though. Made a RuneScape friend and chatted on and off for several years. He ended up being nearish to my town and we decided to get some food. Things were going great until a black man and white woman came in and he whispered. Completely seriously. I hate interracial couples. Eating cheap food. etc. What a douche. We went to a convention and he drunkenly told me and my boyfriend that he wished we weren't together so he could sleep with me. It was very awkward. And he's lucky my boyfriend, now husband, is a patient man. Met up with a friend I met in WoW. I fell down steps. Instead of helping or asking if I am okay, she laughed. Hard. Like. Not breathing. On the floor. Gasping for air. Seal clapping hard. We've been friends for like 8 years ever since that and she still reminds me. I have weird story about a lesbian I met online and eventually IRL. For reference I'm a big girl. We started talking after I made a comment on a lesbian forum about being a single lesbian mom. I still didn't know if I was bi or a lesbian at the time. We started messaging a lot. Hundreds of texts a day. This included sexting and trading nudes a lot too. But she was always obsessed with my daughter. Like almost demanding pictures of her and updates on her. Eventually we arranged to meet up. When we finally see each other in person she looks shocked and asks where my daughter was. Being babysat by mom so we can have a date. I could tell this threw her off a bit. After our date we start hooking up at my place. Even then she was still asking about her. After this can I meet her, would you let me babysit, do you think she'll start calling me mommy? I was like chill, she's 1.5. This combined with her being obsessed with my daughter's stuff including stealing a pacifier. A dirty onishi. Going through the diaper pail. I decided this lady is crazy. She ended up stalking me for a while but I was moving back in with my mom anyway so I managed to escape. I invited him over to my house and he shat all over my toilet. Just to clarify, it was not in the toilet, it was on the seat and a bit of it landed on the floor. My friends and I met him playing League of Legends and turns out he only lived about an hour away. He insisted on being referred to by his in-game name when in person and made a big deal of it whenever someone called him by his real name. I actually worked with this lady at the time. She was good looking and very flirtatious. Most importantly, we both played World of Warcraft at its prime. She ended up inviting me to join her server and being a then horny 20 something, I, of course, Joined up. We played for a time and had a good PvP group going. Her regulars. Of course she was still flirty with me in game and I was back. All in group chat. Either way. We had some great times together slaying players in PvP. Summer comes and it's a company BBQ. I find out she is bringing one of our PvP partners to the event. Cool. It was her husband. A cop. I've been virtually sexting her in game in front of him for 3 months. Met a girl I really liked on WoW but she lived in another country. After a couple of vacations there it turned into a relationship. Made the decision to move and start a new live there with her. After living there for 4 months I slowly realized she was crazy as hell. Huge mood swings paired with a lot of aggression. Ended up getting stabbed in the side by her while asleep. Needless to say, after getting out of the hospital I took the first plane back home. She's still in a psychiatric hospital. What did she stab you with? My new filleting knife. Happy she grabbed that instead of one of the older blunt ones. Luckily she missed any vital parts and it was only a 4-day stay at the hospital for observation. He catfished me. Always bragged about how he lost a bunch of weight and then looked like the before pictures he posted. Not that I personally cared but he got a lot of online attention from girls because of this. Also he made fun of me for being poor. That is. Having a beat up car. Eating cheap food. etc. What a douche. The lady was crazy. We met through an app that was advertised as a meet friends app and not a dating app. Well turns out. It was a dating app. However, she put in her bio that she was married with 2 kids. I put that I was in a long-term relationship and looking for friends. BTW. I'm a guy. She wasn't. So when we arranged a meetup, her husband and 2 kids were there as well as my girlfriend. Everything was going great. Hung out a few times and added each other on Facebook. Turns out, she was super into the whole breastfeeding in public thing. Like, I get it. You go girl. But she was super obsessed with it. 4 out of every 5 pics she posted to FB was her boob and her kid's mouth. She hot angry when you looked away when in public. Like, she wanted you to stare at her while she breastfed. Just got to the point that I was super uncomfortable with it and moved on. Dude was wearing like half a fursuit. I just turned around and texted that something came up and I couldn't make it. Never actually met him but played Apex with a dude pretty regularly. Almost every day. We finally exchanged info and then he used to call me repeatedly in depressed fits and bitch about how girls don't like him. It sucks cause I wanted to help but like. Once it hit 36 calls in one day. I had to block : Edit. Thanks for the silver. My brother met a girl in person that he had known for 4-5 years online, during which time they had kind of had an online relationship. She had brought a friend with her to meet him and while they were sitting around a table awkwardly making conversation. With my brother apparently quite shocked at how bad she looked in person compared to how she looked online. And having absolutely no interest in her other than as friends. The girl sent her friend a message saying OMG get me out of here. He's looking at me like he wants to jump me. But she accidentally sent it to my brother. What ensued was likely incredibly painful to be part of. My brother showed her his phone and looked at her in disgust. Friend for 6 years flies over to Australia to hang with me for a month. Little did I know he was a bit taller than me. I was 5 feet 10 inches. He was, well, 6 feet 7 inches. I never knew he was this tall. He never talked about it. And when I was at the Brisbane airport waiting for him, I texted him stating I don't know where you are. To which he replied look up. Towering over everyone is this blonde guy that has the arm span of the airport lobby. I cried. We laughed. And I regret bringing him over because my ceiling almost hits his head. When I was in high school I met a guy from a different high school in a local chat room. We hit it off and after a few days we agreed to meet up at the store I worked at once I finished work. Well, I guess he showed up a little early. With a friend. And came through my check stand. I thought it was him. We'd swapped photos. But I was really shy and didn't want to be wrong. I waited for him to introduce himself, but he never did. And he and his friend paid for whatever they had and left without conversation. I was still hopeful that wasn't the guy. So I waited up for him for an hour after my shift. Of course, he never showed. Because that absolutely was the guy. He must have been disappointed when he met me in the checkout line, and instead of being a decent person and it was supposed to be a date, she had her hand on another guy's leg at the bar. I did a Grandpa Simpson at the burlesque. She flew in town to be a bridesmaid in my wedding. And she decided to cheat on her husband with one of the groomsmen and blame me for that. Because it was my wedding, so that clearly makes it my fault she was unfaithful. How dare you have a wedding on this, the day of my adultery? It was my friend Kate who befriended this girl, Jessica, who allowed us to come and stay with her when we traveled to the US. Jessica was rude to me instantly and kept my friend away from me. I'd go upstairs and she'd find a reason for them to go downstairs. She had Kate share her bedroom and she'd lock the door for hours, and so I'd just go off and do my own thing. We met her two odd friends and they both ignored me. When it was time for Kate and I to move on to another state, Jessica insisted on coming with us. The lady we stayed with in another state, Robin, took note and called Jessica out on her strange behavior. Jessica proceeded to lock herself in a room and demanded Kate staying there with her. They were in there all day and eventually Kate came out and said to me that there's something wrong with Jessica and she's actually scared. We, Kate and I, had plans to stay with another online friend, Matt, in another state, and Jessica demanded we cancel because she doesn't like or trust Matt. We said no. This is our holiday and we've paid for flights. And Jessica said then she will come with us but we can't meet up with Matt. We said no. She cried. We left. Kate blocked her on everything. Kate's mother called us not long after saying Jessica contacted her crying, saying Kate is in danger and we abandoned Jessica. And she's so concerned for my friend's safety, edit to at, as I recall. She claimed to be concerned about Matt and basically wanted Kate's mum to tell us to stay with Jessica. It was actually incredibly scary. Kate found out later from another girl, Jane, they all knew each other from a forum, that Jessica had been telling everyone they were in love and had even slept together. I don't know how much of that is true, but I've known Kate for 20 years now and she's never identified as anything but straight. She denied it 100%. Jessica was just obsessed with her. And months later Kate heard Jessica was telling everyone she was saving money to come to our country to find Kate. She never did. Thankfully. Other than the time spent with this girl. We had a great holiday and made some good friends. I still talk to Matt. He's great. Edit, added fake names to make story a bit clearer as some people had trouble following. When I was 19 I jumped on a flight to meet a friend I had known for about 4-5 months. We both went through family bereavements and were a shoulder to cry on for each other, via the phone or internet. And we just decided to meet for a few days in a country between us. Until then everything had been perfect. She was the coolest girl. Really smart. The kind of person you want to be around all the time. When we met things started great, but a day later she confessed, "You're not what I expected." What, 19-year-old and not very confident? This knocked me sideways. I don't know. Just, you seem different. I never hid who I was before we met. Was completely open and it put a real sour taste on the rest of my time with her. Instead of chatting non-stop and watching Jackass on TV in the hotel at night, we went quiet and straight to sleep. Ate in silence. I put as much effort as I could into it, but I still never got to the bottom of how I was different. We went our separate ways. Text for a few days then never spoke again.